the thing that sucks about this movie is it's like it is the jump the shark movie for me as the James Bond series goes, because this is the movie where like, oh, they put Bond in space, and then not to mention
that's all
like,
you need to say.
Like he goes to space, and you're like, oh, okay, like you guys went really far. Not to mention, I was going to also mention the fact that like we have all this product placement in this movie that's just like egregious.
Bond has always had product placement, but it's usually just stuff that none of us can afford. It's the super classy stuff that they're not trying to appeal to mass audiences. They're not like, Bond's eating at McDonald's and shit. So it was like, here's classy stuff. And like Bond has expensive tastes. The character, his whole thing is, I could die any day. So every night I'm drinking the best vodka and I'm eating beluga caviar and I love my Dom Perignon 52 and all that. Yeah. And then all of a sudden 7-Up shows up and you're like, what? Like instead of a vodka martini shaken not stirred, he's like, I'll have a 7 and 7 on the rocks. What? Or his watch is a Seiko
watch.
Are those expensive? Or is that just cheap electronic shit?
I have the feeling that it was at one point, and then like over time has kind of not been seen that way.
Yeah.
Or what else was in there? British Airways.
Glassed in boats, and I love the fact that like in the boat sequence, that boat's a cool boat, but in that boat sequence, there's literally a camera shot of just him riding the boat, and then the logo right behind him of the boat, so you know which boat to get when you're like, I want that boat that James Bond had in that movie. So the product placement in this movie is just outstanding. And then the other thing that really kind of bothers me about this movie is the number of music cues. And we had talked about in the last movie, they did it with Lawrence of Arabia, but this movie, you have the Magnificent Seven theme that just randomly plays as Bond is on a horse as like a spacho going to the monastery.
Strangely played.
It's just a really weird scene. And that scene, if you remember, that scene takes place like right after the ambulance scene where Goodhead is in the ambulance, and that ambulance drives off, and he's like escaped the ambulance, and then he just like runs after her, and then we cut to him on a horse.
Yeah, with two other guys.
Really out of place.
With like 002 and 005 or something. Like it's just like, who are these other guys that he's rolling around with?
The code key is the music from Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, apparently Spielberg was going to direct this at one point. Like, that was in talks, but they were like, no, we're not going to do that, I guess. I don't know.
If only.
If only, right?
That would have been incredible.
Well, it's not the first time Spielberg was going to maybe direct, right?
Yeah. Like, I mean, he's always been like...
trying to get him, but can't.
Yeah, he's too good. He's too good.
We'll go back to Lewis Gilbert. Go back to Lewis Gilbert. He's good. He made You Only Live Twice. He's really good.
And then you also
have this thing where these pigeons, they go like this. He's really good. Let's get Gilbert back.
And then you have the first 3 notes of 2001: Space Odyssey is playing during the hunting scene. What's funny about that scene, though, is that scene reminds me of the scene in Goldfinger with the golf scene. I don't know if you guys caught that. Feels that way.
No, but that's interesting you say that because I think of the Thunderball shotgun scene.
Yeah, I can see that too.
Where Bond's like, oh, what's a shotgun? I've never, and then subtly shows off. Like, what is this? What's a shotgun? And then...
You missed, Mr. Bond. Did I?
But anybody who knows anything about shotguns knows that shooting somebody with a shotgun from 100 yards isn't going to do dick. But, whatever. Most people don't know that.
But that was a badass ending to that scene, I think, for Drax to release the dogs to chase her down.
You mean the best scene in the movie?
That was very, perfectly villainous. Yeah.
But I always feel like it's so out of place because you see that scene and it feels like it's from a different horror movie that came out in the 70s. And you have all those light leaking through the forest and the running and the dogs and everything. And I think it was maybe one of the first steady cam sequences in any of the Bond films. So
if only the whole movie followed that tone, wouldn't that be great?
Yeah. But then I always remember it's that great scene is in the same movie with Double Take Pigeon.
Yeah.
That's what's also weird about this movie.
And just Jaws constantly fucking up, ripping off a parachute cord and a steering wheel and making ridiculous faces as he like crashes into things.
And surviving everything. Just does not die.
Speaking of Drax, though, he commits Charlie's number one sin of a bad guy, which is, okay, why do you want to kill Bond? The government sent this guy to investigate. Now, it's one thing if you're going to make his death look like an accident, but him getting shot or him getting killed in a G-force simulator, that's not exactly falling down the stairs and breaking your neck. If you're going to do that, why couldn't Drax just shoot him with the shotgun he was holding? Like, if he really wants to kill him, is he worried about witnesses? Everybody there is in on the plot. It's like the same thing, again, when Largo wants to kill Bond and Fiona is smart enough to be like,
if Bond had died last night as a result of your hastiness, his government would have known for certain the bombs are here.
Keep Bond alive, hide the secrets from him, and then he'll f*** off eventually. But
yeah, I see what you're saying.
So what they needed was either they either needed Bond to discover the plot and then they have to kill him, or lame Oddjob guy, the wannabe Oddjob, needed to just take the initiative or something, even though Drax didn't want to kill him. I love the line of,
"Look after Mr. Bond. See that some harm comes to him."
But at the same time, it does make Drax look kind of stupid, where it's like, just entertain Bond and then get him out of there as soon as possible. Because up until that point, they have no reason to suspect Drax himself until he has his creepy assistant guy immediately try to assassinate him. In fact, Drax is operating under the cover of "Y'all lost my spacecraft."
I'm honored that your government should send you on so delicate a mission. Delicate, Mr. Drax? Well, to apologize in person for the loss of my space shuttle.
The other plot point I thought that was just terribly weak was the whole how this all came about. Why he restole the shuttle was purely because
I needed it. One of my own Moonrakers developed a fault during assembly.
But with all of his power, and he can just make another one.
He should have just had everybody sit on laps.
It was just, I don't know. I didn't like it.
I agree with Scott. I don't want to rehash this argument, but I feel like Tom Mankiewicz, who I think is also one of the screenwriters of this movie, has this tendency to write these really weird, like, see, and then he reverts back on it.
Oh, just a quick fix, you mean?
Like a quick fix. And that's what I think the problem with, I don't want to rehash Man with Golden Gun, but I think that's the same thing as him writing a thing where it's like, oh, this would be an interesting opening, but then like, and then how do we get us into the plot? Like, oh, well, we'll steal the jet. Well, why did they steal the shuttle? Oh, there was a malfunction with the shuttle. You know what I mean? Like that to me is like, that's what that reads to me as like
basically what you guys are saying is that the hijacking and therefore murder of a whole bunch of people, and then the like Drax should have anticipated that Moonraker's not going to be in the wreckage.
We've been through it with a fine tooth comb, but there's no sign of Moonraker, not a trace.
So people are going to ask questions, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing if he's like, whatever, by the time they realize what happened to the Moonraker, they're all going to be dead from gas anyway. But but all the same, it does, you guys are right that it does make Drax, like those two things make Drax look stupid. Killing Bond prematurely and just like we need a whole other shuttle. Why don't, okay, all of you, how about some of you just sit in the aisle during takeoff?
Yeah, or that.
Drax is like, okay, wait, you can't all go. Oh, geez. Okay, should we keep the Japanese? Maybe we should get rid of the Lithuanians.
Oh my God.
No, the redheads. Get rid of the redheads. Okay, sorry, redheads. You're going to be on the next one, and then there just isn't a next one.
Damn.
I only say that because I think that redhead is the sexiest Bond girl so far. She puts Naomi to shame. She makes my life hurt when I look at her.
I figured as much when I was watching this movie.
Yeah.
I thought Charlie likes that girl.
Sorry. Okay, so